In the 13th edition of Lives in the Game, we are joined by Burnley FC and Orlando City shareholder Brendan Flood as he explains what football is really like at the top and takes us through his career.
Working man with kids at home to feed, he won't concede.
Eddie Howe's been extremely successful at Bournemouth. He had a brief spell at Burnley. Why do you think it didn't work out for Eddie Howe at Turf Moor?
He decided he wanted to change the team, the first team, and go very young, which we supported because that's what we wanted. But he probably was more radical than we expected.
I know he's got quite a long contract, but are you ever fearful that you could lose Sean Dyche?
At some point, his head will be turned, so it's an inevitability. And then we just have to go and get the next hungry young manager, who wants to make his name at Burnley.
You're a shareholder now, and you were there from the start at Orlando City.
Yeah.
Why did you want to start an MLS club?
We were sat in a bar in Chicago one night in 2009, I think, and it was, and we were just literally scribbling on a beer mat, the 5 cities in the USA where we could put a club.
It's worth the smile.
Hello everyone, welcome to 24/7 Football for another Lives in the Game, and it's not just footballers and managers that we speak to in this series. We want to speak to people in and around football, whatever their capacity, and a really interesting subject is in the boardroom of football, the business decisions that are taken, how football works behind the scenes. So today we're delighted to be joined by Brendan Flood, who is a director and shareholder at Burnley FC and Orlando City as well. Brendan, thank you for taking time out of your day to speak to us.
You're welcome, George. Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm okay. I've just been trying to do as many videos as possible. How about yourself?
Yeah, it's good. It's different, isn't it? We're in this COVID period, so I think the lockdown's given us all a chance to reflect on what we're doing, but we don't half miss the football. So I think we need to find something else to worry about.
We do. I miss it daily. So we're going to be talking through your time in football, Brendan, and maybe in the future as well. But first, we'll start at Burnley FC. Obviously, Burnley, such a big club now in the Premier League. You are a director and shareholder there, but how did you first get involved at Burnley, and why Burnley?
Well, why Burnley? It's part of my roots. So, I was brought up a Burnley fan and went to school at St Theodore's, which is just behind Turf Moor. So, I'd grown up supporting, going to games with my dad, very much part of my life. And then, as time went by, I went along as a season ticket holder after I finished playing myself. I wasn't pro, just sort of, reasonable amateur sort of player, but always had a passion for football and sport. And when it got to a point where Steve Cottrell was manager at the time, and we were near the bottom of the championship, and the football was just dire, and and I sat there, and I had two sons, and they were both young at the time, and the youngest one didn't want to come to the games; he thought it was so boring. And I had to admit it was boring, so and then I'd got to a point in my career where I'd done well, and I had the money to invest, and then I bought into the club and bought in 2006, late 06, and then started to get more and more involved in the club during 2007. And so that was my big reason. It was just part of my identity. It was a place I loved, and I always have seen it as something that I always want to be connected with.
During your time, just how well is Burnley run as a football club? You never seem to spend outside of your capabilities. The wage structure seems on point. Just how well is Burnley run from your point of view?
Well, we're proudly frugal. And it's run by Northern lads. Everyone on the board is a Burnley fan, so that makes a difference because we care more than average, and it's that's important. You get often you'll get transient owners who come in and their ambitions are different. They're probably more about the capital gain, or they want the glory, and we just want our club to carry on, and we want to keep improving it little by little every year. And if you make a slightly bigger stride, then that's fantastic. But we're ultimately, we always give ourselves at every board meeting, we give ourselves a 5-year cash flow, and that cash flow always assumes we get relegated this season, no matter where we are in the league, and we always assume we're going to get relegated, and that will then show us what the impact of relegation does for you. And that's where a lot of clubs go wrong. They lose sight of the impact of failure. And so we always want to allow for that, because it is a competitive sport. So we allow for the possibility of failing, but we then, because we've worked out the recipe for getting back from going down. How do we get back up from the Championship? We've been successful on that now. We've had 3 promotions in my time, and so we're not as frightened of relegation, but we really want to stay in the top 30 clubs in the UK for as long as we can.
Is it stressful running a football club? Because I can imagine it can be very stressful, because there's so many factors from the outside looking that we don't get to see.
Yeah, well, you're right there, George. It can be stressful. I think it's not an investment to make if you're a little bit nervous, and because there's there's an expression goes that how do you make a big fortune small? Well, buy into a football club. But I think now it's I'm firmly of the belief and that you can run it well. There is a science, and you can improve your investment, and you can certainly make sure you don't lose money if you do it well. So there's a professionalism that's required with ownership, and I think increasingly so. And it's going more that way. The more rules and regulations. I mean, at the moment, I think the impacts of COVID-19 will bring out the best of the good owners and the good management teams in clubs. So yeah, the stress levels can be high, because you're basically judged by the public every weekend, and in most businesses you only get judged once a year when you put out your annual accounts. But no, if you lose 4 or 5 games on a row, the public are all looking at you. The manager, the board. What have you done wrong? Why have you employed him? Why have you bought this player? So yeah, you can take it home with you, which can add to your family stress. So yeah, I think you've got to really want to do it and got to really care. And for me, I've largely enjoyed it.
You talk about things that can happen as an owner. You talk about the 3 promotions as well. The first one under Owen Coyle, who ultimately left while you were still in the Premier League. How did you deal with that at the time, and did you expect it?
The promotion or Owen Coyle?
Owen Coyle leaving. Did you?
Owen Coyle leaving? No, we didn't expect that. It was at the time we were okay. We were bottom third of the Premier League, but we were just about okay. We were trending into a bad run, and which often happens around winter for Burnley. We have traditionally have a bad run near Christmas, and then we kind of hope to get better in February. So yeah, we got in that position, and Owen was obviously previously at Bolton, and so he had rose tinted specs about Bolton. And even though they were below us at the time in the league, they had a good squad, and they were just underperforming. And so he was taken from us really by Bolton. They did a raid and offered him a lot more money, and we were really disappointed to lose him at the time. So, well, the Burnley fans all hold on to this. That was the Bolton sort of senior team were all claiming that Bolton were 10 years ahead of Burnley at the time, and look what's happened since.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. So after Owen Coyle, some managers, at every football club just don't click. Eddie Howe's been extremely successful at Bournemouth. He had a
Yeah,
brief spell at Burnley. Why do you think it didn't work out for Eddie Howe at Turf Moor?
yeah, it's a good question. I think for Eddie, he's a bright man. He's got great emotional intelligence, great football tactician, and in terms of his recruitment, he's got him and Jason Tyndall, his number two, have got a real good eye for talent, especially forward players. So, I think that's why they've continued to do well. The recruitment ability is brilliant. But I think we all have a place where we fit. There's the human chemistry, which is not so much just about you; it's about your people. So your wife, your family, etc. But I think Eddie had he'd bitten off a big challenge. At the time we within about 3 months of joining Burnley, he decided he wanted to change the team, the first team, and go very young, which we supported because that's what we wanted. But he probably was more radical than we expected, and he then decided he wants to get rid of probably a lot of the first team that we had. People like Wade Elliott, Graham Alexander, Clark Carlisle, and he went through the squad, slicing out a lot of changes, and then we went young. So we then went into this recruitment period where we brought in Ben Mee, Kieran Trippier from Man City. We got Charlie Austin, Danny Ings out of Bournemouth. And so on. And we were starting to build the next team. And they were all relatively young professionals. So I think Eddie he'd sown the seeds for what became the second promotion team. And it was then when Sean came in, Sean Dyche, he recruited Tom Heaton as goalkeeper. But Tom was a great leader as well. So I think a bit of leadership added to the quality of the youth that we'd recruited gave us something special. And that second promotion team was better than the first promotion team, really. So, so Eddie, I think, from a professional perspective, he'd gone some way towards creating that team that was successful, but he wasn't able to finish the job because I think he had family issues that his mother died, and he then couldn't settle up north, so he went back south. But yeah, he did a lot for Burnley, which people probably don't recognise.
And then you mentioned Sean Dyche, and it honestly seems like a match made in heaven, him and Burnley Football Club. Just how good is he to have at Turf Moor? I mean, he's done wonders.
Yeah, Sean, you're right. People often say that football teams play in the image of the manager. So the image of Sean is, that he's a tough guy, and that's the general perception because he's got a deep voice, and he's tough looking. He's actually, he's got a lot of human skills around that. He's very popular with the team and the staff. Got a great sense of humour. He's got good intellect. He holds it together with the board. He can, he's fascinated by business skills and management skills. So I think Sean is, people underestimate his altogether strengths. So he's been brilliant for us, and he's fit. I think he's very complimentary to the environment we have. He's we like we're British board, British manager, mainly British players. And that identity of Burnley, it's a northern town where football and family are the only things that matter to the fans of the town. And if you people sometimes lose what it is that matters, and you see clubs going off course because they've kind of lost that direction, and they don't give the fans what they want. Fans want to see people who care. They want to see players that have come up through the ranks, and and they want to connect with the players. So we've managed to maintain that, which I think is part of the reason why we've outperformed.
Are you scared that you may lose him in the future? Because he's done such a good job at Burnley. There's always been rumours about other clubs maybe having a sniff around him. I know he's got quite a long contract, but are you ever fearful that you could lose Sean Dyche?
Oh yeah. There's nothing is forever in football. Whether it's a player or a manager. So there is an inevitability about success. Often creates opportunity for players and managers beyond what the club is. So we get a lot of curiosity around why are Burnley doing well? Who is it who's making the difference? Is it the manager? Is it the players? So that will always be the case. But what we very quickly, from my point of view, getting involved with the club, we typically at the time we were signing players in the last 3 years of their career, so we tended to have players who might have had a bit of a reputation in the past, but they were going towards the end, so they were batting out their career, and we were never as hungry as we needed to be. So I think the key for Burnley is maintaining that level of hunger in who we employ, and so we're always keen to recruit those people who want to make a difference, make a name for themselves, and Sean has certainly done that, and I think he's kept that philosophy going. And for himself, there is a point where again his hard work being in the Premier League and hard work top end of the Championship, and you sometimes, as you get more successful, you feel that you might want to have more money to spend, and then you might then have a slightly easier job because you're not having to develop your players as much. So I'm sure that comes into Sean's mind every now and again, and at some point his head will be turned. So it's an inevitability, and then we just have to go and get the next hungry young manager, who wants to make his name at Burnley.
In terms of when you talk about your expectations, did you ever expect that Burnley would be playing European football? I mean, it was an amazing story and an amazing season at Burnley, and then culminated in you playing in the Europa League.
Yeah, you're right. It was, and I grew up with European football being something that got talked about by my dad and others, but I'd never experienced it. Then it was just something you saw other clubs do, the more powerful clubs. So yeah, for us to experience that at Burnley, it was great. It was 50 years since we've been in Europe, so there was a moment there of reflection where you could say this is perfect timing. It reminded us that we are a big club, really. We've got a great history and a great legacy. So for us to now and again be seen in Europe, I think is fitting. But the experience of it initially was good, but then once we got a few games into it, I think the general feeling at the top of the club was this is going to cause us a problem, because we knew the playing staff were under a lot of pressure. And you're playing Thursday, Sunday, and they're all big games. You're traveling, a lot of traveling involved, and they just, we just didn't have enough to do well enough. So we went out, just before the group stage. So it was probably a relief to be knocked out,
but still having that experience as well. So you mentioned as well 3 promotions at Burnley. Is there a favourite for you? I mean, there's some cracking teams in there, and all 3 were different. So you have one as champions, one as second place, and then another one as playoff winners, which again a scary experience. But is there a favourite for you?
I'd say Yeah, it's hard to pick one out, but I would say definitely the first, because the one in 2009, was nobody expected us to get to the Premier League. It was, and there was the mission that we set. When I created a team at Burnley um, to really buy into the belief that we could get to the Premier League, and we started to push that around the club, and it slowly but surely became part of the subconscious that we could get to the Premier League. Yeah, we just have to believe it. So that self belief, I think, was the key to working with, getting the right bunch of people together, and then taking Burnley to Premier League. So it was the fulfilment of a dream, and so that felt different and more memorable. The others were equally good in different ways, but they're probably more about the achievement of the football management team thereafter. But I think initially it was that creating that belief that we could do this. That was never there in Burnley for many, many years.
And just finally touching on Burnley before we move on, in terms of the future, I know it's a bit harder to say because of COVID-19 and the impact that we don't even know what that will have on football. But in terms of your involvement with Burnley and the board's outreach, is it just slowly and keep building and building and staying in the Premier League?
Yeah, yeah. Once you're in, and you don't want to be out. It's the Premier League it's intoxicating, it's exciting, and and then you need the media, and you need all the attractions it brings. It helps you recruit better, helps you invest longer, and it gives you pride. It helps the town stay proud of its club. So we do want to stay there. I think in many ways a lot of Burnley fans would see it as almost a glorified cup run every year. You think how small clubs, when they get the big days out, they're playing all the teams like City, United, Liverpool, and they love those cup runs. And for us, it's always felt a bit like that. We're on this amazing cup run, but now we're starting to be almost aligned with them. We beat Manchester United at Old Trafford this year, so we should feel more confident that we can stay there for longer. So that's always understanding that you've got to progress. You've got to keep spending your money wisely. So we're doing that, but football's so competitive. Never experienced a business like it, where your people and everything you do is constantly being looked at by the competition. And if you've got something good, they want it. So you're trying to defend yourself against the opposition on the pitch and off the pitch.
What is that like dealing with, when you talk about coming into the Premier League, for instance, when you've got bigger clubs like Tottenham, Manchester United, and they want one of your players, what are they actually like to deal with? Are they more aggressive in their approach, and in the behind the scenes boardroom environment, is it an aggressive atmosphere?
No, it's not. It's quite polite and gentlemanly in the boardroom. We all shake hands before the match and after the match. So there's a high level of courtesy, between clubs, and some are nicer to deal with than others. I'd say if you've had manager issues between you, or you've had players who've been stolen away from you at some point, that can create a bit of bad blood, where you can feel the chill wind when you approach people. But yeah, I think for those who are in it, as long as you do it in the right way, there is a right way to recruit players and managers. And as long as you do it the right way, respectfully, then we are in a competition, and you have to look after your club as best you can and be tough about it. So yeah, you don't get many gentle people in boardrooms because they know you have to sort of be tough occasionally to keep things together.
So, in terms of your career in football, it moved you from, well, didn't move you. You developed another club across the pond in America. So you were you're a shareholder now, and you were there from the start at Orlando
Yeah.
City.
Yeah.
Why did you want to start an MLS club? I mean, it seemed like you had so much going on at Burnley, and then you added an MLS club as well.
Yeah, well, it started with a Burnley link, really. So credit where it's due. A chap called Gary Mellor, who's a sports lawyer at Beswick's in Stoke. Gary's a great friend of mine, and at the time he was representing around 9 of the Burnley players, and so we had to have a good relationship, and we developed a really good friendship from that. And Gary was getting involved with the USL in the USA, which is like the championship, over there. And he wanted me to go and have a look at clubs with him, and see if there was a strategic relationship that we could create, or I might buy into one of the clubs over there, associate it with Burnley, and create more of a recruitment platform. So I went over, did a trip, saw probably 4 or 5 clubs. Just didn't like the business model. So we were sat in a bar in Chicago one night in 2009, I think, and it was, and we were just literally scribbling on a beer mat, the 5 cities in the USA where we could put a club, and then just started off in the USL, and then start to build it towards an MLS franchise. And the one I liked the most was Orlando. So I said, right, let's have a go at Orlando. So off we went, and we did it mainly for trying to recruit players from South America, North America. Maybe you've got a different contract structure there. You can sign players up on 4-year deals. You get annual breaks in the contract, so you can release the players if they're not good enough, but you can keep them if they are. So it's a bit more flexible than the UK European system. So Orlando's an attractive place to be. So we want to do that, and then just from a pure sort of business economics, I thought the franchise model over there was going to grow in value. So I enjoyed the business side of it as well. And so within a few months of Gary and I starting to pull things together in Orlando, then another friend of ours, Phil Rawlins, joined. And Phil then, to be fair, became the driving force, really, because he had a PDL team, which is under 23s, out in Austin, and Phil brought over his PDL team from Austin, and that, so immediately we had a squad, and we got Adrian Ethan, who was mates with all of us. Adrian was a manager at Stoke and Burnley, and he did a great job getting the team together, and eventually we won the USL after a few years. And but you don't get promoted there. You have to kind of pay for the franchise, and then it was a big investment to make. $70 million at the time. It's now above $200 million now for a franchise in the USA. So we pulled that together. We did a big investment plan, brought in an investor called Flavio Augusta from Brazil, and the rest is history. We had a club in the MLS within 6 years of sitting in a bar in Chicago, writing it on a beer mat.
Are you quite proud of that? To have that club in the MLS, to go from literally nothing to having a stadium that's, it's an incredible stadium with safe standing, and are you just proud of everything that you've achieved there?
Definitely, George. Yeah, I think it was a great team effort between everybody, and you have to have a bit of luck in these things, but within within six years, to go from nothing to that, it shows you what's possible, because we always think in terms of our heritage here in the UK, that clubs aren't easily created. They are what they are. The clubs are already established. So to create new clubs, in a market like the USA, is pioneering. But there are new club opportunities all around the world. So I think, or now in the UK or Europe, I'd say it's almost giving clubs a rebirth, creating a new club out of an old club. So the opportunity to change and make a massive difference is always there. Those possibilities are always there for people with the ambition.
Orlando signed Kaka as well, which is, at the time it was unbelievable. How hard was it to get him in? How big of a coup was he for Orlando? And did you ever think about sending him on loan to Burnley?
Yeah, well, we did. I got asked by a few Burnley people about it. Well, why can't we have Kaka? And well, he likes the sunshine, so that's probably one reason. Yeah, it was. Well, it was. To be fair, it was when we brought Flavio Augusta in to invest. He came. He'd met Flavio, and Flavio was a very wealthy man, and so Flavio really wanted it. I think it was kind of his ambition to help make a difference early on at Orlando was to bring Kaka in. So he did that, and they obviously was on excellent wages, as one of the designated players, and he did start to create great fan interest, in Orlando. So we got the benefit of having him there from the beginning, and he's been excellent. So he's obviously retired now, but he did his bit for Orlando.
In terms of the actual football club from the start, you mentioned fan interest with Kaka. Have the people of Orlando really took to the football club? Are you seeing, the average attendance increase year on year?
I'd say it depends. In America, they're more fickle than we are over here. So when you're doing well, everybody turns up. You've got full stadiums. If you're having a bad season, then your crowds can deteriorate. And I mean, we obviously get that here. When we drop league by league, your attendances will drop. But yeah, there it's more, it's your position in the league, the attendances will drop. But I'd say there's a hardcore sort of 15 to 20,000. And then, we'll get sort of full stadiums, 28,000, when the team's doing well. So, yeah, ebbs and flows, to be fair, George.
You were the only team in the area, and then a certain David Beckham started a team as well with Inter Miami. So it's a derby for you, which I'm sure creates a lot of excitement. But what were your first thoughts when David Beckham announced his intention to start a club in the vicinity?
Oh, it's positive because it's more a validation of the marketplace, So you're always looking for, good competition. It's that. I think that then makes, over in the States, because the distances between the cities are so huge, here, if we're sat in Manchester and then you talk about Birmingham, and really it's only an hour and a half away from on the road, and you think that's a big distance. Over in the States, going from Orlando to Miami, can take you 2.5 hours. So you're into a big distance, so they don't think in the same rival way about each other. But I think the soccer is starting to create that. That there is more tribal, more rival thinking, which is part of why we're all intoxicated with the game here. It's not so much about the 11 against the 11. It's that, I've got my friends in Birmingham, and I want to have the bragging rights for this next year. So I think I think that that tribalism will start to come, which will make the MLS, I think, more and more of a competition. So having big names like Beckham come in with good owners, and doing quality stadiums and bringing in good squads, I think it's going to just take the game further and further on. And the key thing over there, I'd say, for them to really, really bring it forward is to allow more designated players, which I think will come in time, which are the highly paid players. Because at the moment you get three designated players on a big wage, and then the rest are often on lower levels, and it's a wage cap system. So that's healthy for the game, but for the spectacle, to make it the best spectacle and get the best performance, they've probably got to find a balance which is more 50-50 between designated and wage cap.
So we've spoken about obviously Burnley now and Orlando, which is really where you came into the footballing industry in terms of club level, but you're also involved at an education level as well. So you started UCFB, which is a footballing university, and it was the first of its kind. It started at Burnley. Now you've got campuses at the Etihad Stadium and Wembley. What made you want to start a footballing and sport university?
It was an interesting one how it began. I mean, I'd always had this urge to give back, because when I was 18, there was nothing really to enable me to get into football business. There was no vocational pathway available. And at 18, I really wanted to be a sports journalist. So a bit like you, George. I wanted to be. And so I wanted to be on the TV doing interviews and traveling the world watching great games. So that was kind of my ambition. And couldn't find a route in then. And I was being pressed by my mum and dad to do something sensible. And so I ended up going into Barclays Bank at 18, so I became more akin to a financier over time. And having gone that pathway, I'd kept this burning desire. But I remembered once I got into Burnley and bought in, that, how do young people do this? And, I could see how much people are fascinated by the game, by the clubs, the whole industry. And I thought, yeah, maybe I could do something to help people access this. So that was the motivation, to create an opportunity for young people to get into sport properly and with more of a vocational learning pathway, whether within clubs they can see how it works more and get close to the people in the industry quickly. And we started in Burnley in 2011, the first group of students. We had 60 students the first year, and it's gone on from there. We have 2,500 students now, and what I'm enjoying now is opening up the international options for students' experience. The global study hubs in Toronto, Atlanta, New York, and Melbourne. So those are giving opportunities for summit events, which are educational events, and more teaching based learning and cultural learning for students to explore all the areas for networking and business opportunities, so they can get themselves into those markets if they feel really passionate about it.
Are you proud of how the university has grown? Did you expect it to take off as much as it did? And are you proud of the students that it's producing as well?
Yeah, absolutely. The students first, George. Yeah, I love it. If ever I bump into any of the students anywhere, it could be at a match, it can be in a bar, it can be just any situation. And I love that. If they've unlocked their talent and then taking it somewhere, it's we can give more opportunities to students and help them think about themselves more. and how they want to do it, and then the energy of the person is what makes you successful. So we can direct the talent, but we can't always put people exactly where they want to be. They've just got to crack on and do it themselves a bit more as well. So, but so the pride in seeing the students who've really taken hold of it and gone for it is brilliant, and I love that. So, the overall, the university is always growing, always getting more strength in depth, and getting more opportunities, which in turn gives the students more opportunities. So yeah, it's we're not finished yet. A long way to go.
Well, Brendan, it's been absolutely fantastic to speak to you about your career in football and everything throughout it. So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and speak to us. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, good man, and well done, you, George. Yeah, tell me now, how's your career going?
It's going okay. It's going all right. Yeah. So I'm just trying to get as far as I can, but step by step, Brendan. Step by step.
Yeah. Oh, well done, mate. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. Everyone who has watched this, I hope you've all enjoyed listening to Brendan Flood speak about his career in football, and hopefully offers a little bit of insight into the back room of football as well, stuff that we don't usually get to see. So thank you everyone for watching. I will post a few links to Brendan's stuff in the description below, like his book and stuff like that. So keep an eye out for that. Subscribe to the channel if you have enjoyed this video, like the video. Check out our website 247football.com, and we'll see you all next time.
Working man with kids.